Hi everyone, this is Koinzell here, and I'm back with Dehya Math Guide 4, although 1 to 3 got taken down. But I'll just do a quick update regarding my channel and the direction moving forward. I'll cover V4 changes for Dehya, and I'll talk about my thoughts on the changes, and I'll do a quick recap on the rotation and the energy since those got taken down. But it will be a very quick recap. The details you can pause for yourself, yeah? Then we will have talk about Dehya substats priority with the new changes as well as the new figures and EM versus HP sense comparison. Because if you remember previously we did EM versus asset sense. And finally we have the TLDR and what's coming next. Alright, so without further ado, let me just give a quick update with regards to the channel. So there's still no reply from Hoyo, at least the email that they provided, which is actually just a generic customer service email anyway. So I'm just gonna take it that there will be no reply anyway. Alright, either way, just take it that there's not gonna be any reply. Now I will continue to post math guides for Dehya while removing all images and names from the beta, i.e. signature weapon, splash icon, those graphics will all be gone. Talent names as well, anything that's not officially released per se, in terms of names, and images and animation, those will all be removed. That's how I will try to continue to do math guides in future, release math guides in future. Now, I will probably re-upload Dehya Math Guides 1 to 3 with all these updates, right? All the images are removed, or maybe I'll do a consolidated math guide. Yeah, maybe I'll do a consolidated math guide after, provided that there's no issues for the next few math guides. Yeah, so I'm gonna give you a bit of time. I'll upload this, and let's see if we do get hit again. Anyway, I can afford one more hit before my channel gets taken down completely. Yeah. Alright, now that's for the channel updates, because if you remember, I did mention that I was burnt out previously. I was feeling burnt out, so it's not exactly the worst thing if this comes to an end, but I do feel like I should try to continue to provide value. So in the worst case scenario, if I can't do pre-release math guides, maybe I'll do up post-release. Yeah, it's gonna be like a bunch of math guides out on the release day or something. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Right? Now, without further ado, let's talk about the latest changes that happened this week, which is the V4 changes. Okay, so previously my math guide covered up till V2. V3 I didn't do any video because we got hit with that thingy, and also because V3 there wasn't actually any changes for Dehya. But this time around, we are getting changes, and you can see in the red portion. If you notice, I've already removed all the official names. Yeah. Okay. So the multipliers have been changed to have a little bit of HP scaling included. This is how it looks like at level 9 and level 12. And this is nice because, as I've mentioned in Math Guide 1 previously, the multipliers should have been split with like a 75-25 ratio on the attack and HP scaling. And that's exactly what we got here, or pretty much what we've gotten here. Sadly though, this is only on her E prot damage and not on her cast damage, which actually, if you think about it, arguably it would be the majority of the damage coming from her E, but just her E. Her E is actually a very small contributor of her damage, especially in this HyperCarry Vape, the one that I covered in Math Guide 2. Now, one thing to note though is that while they have included HP scaling, they have actually reduced her attack multipliers. So let's do some quick necking math to see if this is a buff or not. Okay, but I do recommend that you look at the overall figures later too. Now, in terms of base value from the previous permutation, sorry, this is not 190. There's a typo here. This is 117. Yeah, no worries. It is a typo, not a actual wrong figure. Now, if I look at all the base attack value, right? All the bars being removed, no damage bonus, no crit, no reactions, is about 1896. All the buffs except attack, sorry. Although for her E, if you know how her E works, there's snapshotting involved, so you wouldn't really get the attack buffs anyway. So 1896 here, 2183 is the new value. So actually there's an increase. And this is without any HP base rolls, without HP sense, and just HP from signature weapon, and this is 0. Without signature weapon, it's 2095. Okay, so without the HP bonus from signature weapon, you do drop a little on the base value, it's about 100 of it. So in terms of the overall buff, right, it's actually a 15% with signature and 10% without. So this is very nice, right? Base kit has HP scaling, etc. But one thing to note is that this is her E. We have to factor in her E, her Q damage, everything coming together, and more importantly, all the buffs. Because if you remember, the HyperCarry Vape has a huge amount of attack buffs. If those attack buffs come into play, the loss or drop in attack multiplier may have a bigger impact. Okay? But I mean, it's still nice that they finally give what people wanted, right? Which is a bit of HP scaling, especially given that she has HP Ascension stat. Right? We'll look at the overall math later and compare HP versus attack versus EM sense, and whether we should prioritize HP based role now as well. In terms of the elemental burst, basically much the same thing, where she gets a little bit of HP scaling while the attack multiplier gets reduced kinda accordingly. Okay. But this time round, all of her Q gets the multiplier, unlike the E where you only get it from the E proc. Now the thing about here, this statement here, right? Okay, this statement here, you gotta remember that for her Q in the HyperCarry Vape, she will get all her attack buffs by then. So that's why I included all the attack buffs here. Unless her E actually doesn't really get any attack buff. Although I say attack here, the thing is, because of how it works in the rotation, you're not actually getting most of the buffs, attack buffs anyway, right? So that's the reason why the figure is so bit of a difference, in case you're wondering, the base figure. But it's still the base figure. There's no damage bonus, no crit, no reactions, no damage buff, no resistance strat, take into account, etc. So it's 7089. The new change is actually slightly lower. You see? It's actually slightly lower. 7065. I mean, it's pretty much the same, right? I mean, it's just like what, 24 difference? But this is with the HP bonus from signature weapon. Without signature weapon, it's 6921. So it's still lower, but it's not too bad. Like, it's not a big percentage difference per se. Like, it's still a drop. So yeah, it's like a case of be careful what you ask for, right? You ask for HP scaling, yeah, you're getting HP scaling in the base kit, but they went to reduce the attack. And because of how much attack that we are getting from this HyperCarry Vape, the sheer amount of attack buffs that we are getting plus Bennett's attack buff, we are getting a lot of attack percentage bonuses in this com as well as Bennett's Q bonus, attack bonus. So that results in a very painful impact when the attack multipliers drop from 191 to 167. Or 192 to 168 if you want to round up. So yeah, you are seeing similar damage if you have HP bonuses from signature weapon and ascension, but without signature weapon, you're actually seeing a drop. So I can tell you for guys, for her Q, right, with all the attack buffs thrown in this HyperCarry Vape, you do start to see the importance of going HP on her. But whether we should prioritize HP over attack or EM, we'll look at the overall math later. Okay, so now we've talked about E and Q changes. Next up, we have the passive change, the A1 passive. Now, basically, they remove the whole kind of needlessly chunky or weird behavior, right? Where it is all about the ability being re-triggered, and then you have the E-Fuel recreate. Okay, sorry, let me put it this way. You get 4 seconds of extra resistance to interaction on top of whatever her E is already providing. And for 4 seconds every time you recreate you create the E field. Now, instead of making it so complicated, it's just very, very straightforward now. Within 9 seconds after Dehya unleashes her E, the first cast, regardless of whether you create, you don't need to bother about the recreation of the field. Okay, she will just give you extra resistance to interaction within her E field for the first 9 seconds, and that this is activated once every 18 seconds. Your E cooldown is 20 seconds anyway, so it's basically the first 9 seconds. First 9 seconds for E. So it's first 9 seconds of a 12 seconds E, and first 9 seconds of the 18 seconds if your E is, if your Dehya is C2. So I'll say this is a good QL buff because you effectively get the 9 seconds from the moment you start casting her E. So this makes things very, very simple and straightforward. No need to recast her E, and it fits perfectly for her to be like the first cast in the rotation. You spend 9 seconds doing the setup, or less than that, whatever the case is, and then you cast her Q. It gives you sufficient time and it makes life much easier. Let me put it that way, and especially for the setup. Okay, now moving on. constellations. Now C2 did get a little bit of change. Basically, they changed their mind again and changed the extension, E-view extension from 6 seconds to 4 seconds and now back to 6 seconds in V4. So basically, this just makes rotations more forgiving in terms of 100%. Because even at 4 seconds, you do have 100% uptime. If you consider the retrieval of the field during the queue. But yeah, I mean, this is just QL. But it's nice to have, I guess. But it's not like a huge breaking effect or anything. I can tell you her C2 probably has lesser value than a C1, although I have not done the math for that yet. Now, my thoughts on the changes. To finalize, right, it's very nice that she's getting HP scaling on her E procs and her Q hits. So this is C0, okay? You don't need C1 to get HP scaling. And you also get some QL bars from her A1 and her C2. And personally, I really like the A1 change because it's much cleaner approach and much more straightforward in terms of setting out rotation. But we'll see in the math eventually how damage is like, because you gotta remember that although you get HP scaling, your attack percentage get lowered. Your attack multipliers get lower on her talents, and you do see some drop in the base value, right? Oh, let me do a quick recap on rotation. I'm not going to run through the whole thing. I'm just going to have the whole thing displayed on screen so you can pause and refer if you want to. But I'm not going to run through it. Alright? Okay, so obviously we have the C0 rotation, and this applies all the way until C6 where the rotation is changed because of the extra duration of her C6. You basically can't do one more Kazuha E. Simple as that. The alternative, I already talked about it previously in the previous method, although it got taken down. But effectively, it's a matter of readjusting Kazuha's Q, or rather Mona's actions. And put it that way, we are trying to optimize Dehya's E basically. Yeah, but I can tell you guys, although okay, I did remember seeing questions about the rotation. So the Kazuha Q, right, although it ends before Dehya's entire Q duration, it would have already applied enough hydro by then, along with Mona's E, to allow you to continue vaping until the end of Dehya's Q. Okay? That is how it works. I tested this with Yoimiya, and it checks out. Although to be fair, Yoimiya hits slower than Dehya during her Q, so Dehya may have more vapes. We may run the situation where maybe the last kick doesn't manage to vape, but yeah, we have to test it out to be sure. Alright? Now, I'm not going to run through all the notes because that's like going through the entire rotation portion again. If you have any questions with regards to the rotation, if you've never ever seen this before, wait, what's this here? If you've never ever seen this before, sorry, because sometimes my kid comes and mess around with my keyboard, my baby. Okay? Yeah. So anyway, these are the notes. If you want to do pause and check them out, I'm going to run through them again, yeah? Okay? Now, moving on to the recap on the energy in rotation. It's going to be very similar how I do the recap for the rotation. I'm going to do it fast. Okay? So quite simply, this is the energy situation for Dehya at C0. So she needs 190 ER. So you need 4 emblem. That's the best set. Simple as that. Now there's some other stuff like for Kazuha, you can get lower ER. Obviously, you have C4 Kazuha, stuff like that. Yeah. Now C2 Dehya, because there is some impact to her energy generation with regards to her C2. So basically, you get 180 ER. So it's like a 10 ER reduction, which makes a difference in terms of the base rolls. At the very least, you don't need as many base rolls on ER. You can afford to get more HP or EM or attack base rolls. That's what I'm trying to say here. But in terms of the actual DPS difference, it's not as big as you would think because, like I said, 119 ER was already covered by base roll plus ER sense plus 2-piece emblem, as I said previously. Okay, yeah. Alright, so C0 is 190, C2 is 180, C4 is 130. Yep, C4 has a very, very good effect on her ER and basically allows you to draw ER sense. Now, C6 also increases her C4 effect. They have some synergy involved. So C6 you actually only need 110 ER. Okay, so obviously you may not need to use 4 emblem. But I'll have to do a update on the artifact comparison based on V4 changes. I've not had the chance to do that yet. So anyway, that's the quick recap. Okay, 119 ER at C0, 180 ER at C2, 130 ER at C4, and 110 ER at C6. Now, let's talk about Dehya's substat priority now with the fact that she has added HP scaling in her base kit. It's long. Okay, it's not that long, but bear with me. Let me just quickly run it through with you guys. Yeah, I'm trying to make this a video like half hour. I don't want it to be another 1 hour. So with HP scaling now included in her base kit, let's look at the stats priority between CR, CD, ER, attack, HP, and EM. Because there's so many stats that she can kind of benefit from, right? Now obviously CR, CD, ER are the prime 3 stats, right? Your crit rate, your crit damage, your energy recharge. These are the prime 3 stats because this is before C4. Because you need a lot of ER before C4. Now there's room for HP, attack, EM remaining, or rather 2 of these stats. And like I said previously, right? If you understand how the stat priority works, substat distribution works in Genshin artifacts, you will have 5th stat available on 2 pieces because one of the above 3, sorry, it should be 3. One of the 3 above stats, one of the above stats will be main stat. Okay, like for example, just give you an easy example, attack sense can have a CR, CD, ER, or either HP or EM. So that's kind of where the 5th stat comes about, right? So let's take a quick comparison. Let's do a quick comparison at the remaining substats priority. Remember, this is substats, this is not main stat. Okay? So to clarify, right, we are using ER sense at C0 and C1. So the substat distribution, when you see me saying EM attack HP, it means that EM gets 5 base rolls, attack gets 2 base rolls, HP gets 0. Like this is the best you can do. The most ideal state. I mean, obviously you can end up with a lot of flat defense and flat HP. I know because I have a lot of artifacts like that too. I'm very sure it's the same for many folks. But this is meant to help you understand how best to prioritize and build your Dehya. Okay? So I think it should be very, very obvious, right? I have actually already sorted out the stats or the figures based on the highest to lowest, at least at C0. Yeah, applies the same for C1 as well. So EM is still the best in this VapeCom, no surprises there, right? Especially being the fact that EM, we don't have much EM. This is the point where EM gets the most benefit. Okay, and then attack actually does better than HP. If you see, 3% versus 4%. HP is 4%. That's 3%. Now, however, in a scenario where your EM is the priority and you only have 5th stat, which is 2 rows, on either attack or HP, it's actually not much of a difference once you get to C1 because of the added HP scaling. Even at C0 it's 1.7, 1.4%, so it's up to you how you want to build, but at least you know how the priority works. But one important thing to note is that there's actually a fair bit of complaints about how easy it is for Dehya to die based on the current beta from beta testers. So there may be some merit to focus on HP for survivability and also allow her A4 passive to heal more, right? And if that's the case, then you're actually better off getting HP as the second priority, which is why my recommendation would be, at least in this VapeCom or in any com where Dehya is doing reactions. No, actually no. I can't say any com that Dehya is doing reactions. Let me just limit it to the VapeCom itself because Vape has a bigger amplifying effect. Yeah. So C0 wise, my recommendation on the substat priority. Okay, this substat is not main stat. EM attack HP. At C1, EM HP attack. Because for HP, right, at C1 it's only 0.2% behind attack. If you get at HP, just to improve her survivability. Now, if you're having issues with her survivability, or we finally get to use her and her survivability is really bad, then you should just drop EM and just go HP. 5 HP substat rolls and 2 EM substat rolls. If you look at the absolute damage figure, it's actually not too bad. Like the difference it's not too bad. I mean, come on, it's a 4% difference. Oh wait, sorry, I should say this, right? It's actually this and this. Yeah, but anyway, these two are pretty close, so yeah, we just get 4% difference. Now, for the sake of my math beyond C1, I will use this EM HP attack, as I've mentioned. But just bear in mind that when she is released and we really need more HP on her, then you might have to go for HP EM attack. But HP EM anyway, we are talking about 5 base roll and 2 base roll. It helps, but it's not like super impactful. She still has the biggest problem, which is her sense having to use ER before C0. But I'll talk more about that later. Okay, it's coming soon. Let's talk about her figures. Let's see the updated figures. Okay, so this is her damage figures. This is the DPS figures. I'm going to give you guys a comparison as well from the previous versus the current. because you see here, this is the current, the V4 changes, this is the previous V2. Okay, same permutation with your C0 Kazuha with C0 Mona and a permutation with other better characters, or more constellation, more spending, or more saving, whatever the case is. So you have C2 Kazuha plus C4 Mona here. Okay. So this is how the figures look like. If you notice, the V2 and V4 are very, very close, right? And this is how close they are. So although she's technically speaking kind of buff in V4, because we get QL buffs, we get HP scaling in her base kit, right? But the actual buffs are actually not big, because you don't really get to build her HP, right? Because you need ER. You need to use ER sense at C0 or at least before C4. There's only after C4 that you get to build her HP. Or you may even need to build EM instead of HP. And I'll talk more about that in the sense comparison later. But effectively, when you... Oh wait, it's a typo here. With C0 Kazuha plus C0 Mona, your C0 Dehya basically gets a 3% boost. Like the V4 changes gives her a 3% boost. It's slightly more at C1, because of the increased HP scaling at C1. It's about 4 to 5%. But yeah, that's it. And C6 is actually just 1%. The recent changes from V2 to V4 or V3 to V4, because anyway V3 no changes to Dehya per se, it's 1% for C6, 3% C0, 4 to 5% C1. That's like the highest it can go. And if you have C2 Kazuha plus C4 Mona, C0 Dehya gets like a 0.5% boost. You get 2 to 3% at C1, and C2 plus is all just pretty much 1%. Yeah, I mean there's a 2%, but this is R5 so. So then you might wonder, what's the point of all these changes? Hoyoverse finally gave us HP scaling in the base kit, but they lowered the attack to the point where she doesn't really get buffed much. She only gets like this amount, 3% or 0.5%. Even lower once your constellations are higher. Ah man. Okay, so personally I feel like there are 2 layers to this change beyond just multiplier changes, and I'll talk about that later in the next section, because I want to show you guys the HP sense versus EM sense comparison in order for you to appreciate the so-called 2 layers that I'm talking about. Alright? So EM sense versus HP sense. So all of these figures are V4 now. You have EM sense here. Okay, same permutation. You have the C0 Kazuha with C0 Mona and the C2 Kazuha with the C4 Mona. Likewise, another set of this, but with HP sense. So you have your EM sense here and your HP sense here. Okay, likewise, they are corresponding DPS figures. Oh wait, I have a typo here. My bad. That's a typo here. Oh no, sorry. It is correct. It is correct. Because the EM sense and the HP sense only happen starting from C4. Okay, the difference only happens starting from C4. Why? Because C0 to C3 you have to use ER sense. It's very unfortunate for her. Her design is such that she needs ER sense at before C4. So yeah, I guess this is more of a wheel comparison. Better put the fact that it's at C4 plus. Yeah. Now I know some of the FTP players will complain, why are you looking at C4 plus? It's not relevant to us, but we need to know how the changes work in terms of our entire kit. At least I want to know. If you want to know, if you don't want to know, feel free to skip. Alright? Okay, so now the situation is this. EM sense is still better than HP sense. There's no red figures here, so EM sense is still better. But the difference, it gets pretty small the higher constellations and the higher the constellation on your Kazuha and Mona as well. Look at how close the difference is between the EM sense and HP sense, especially if it's C2 Kazuha plus C4 Mona. And given that we are talking about C4 figures, C4 Dehya, right? I'm going to focus mainly on the C2 Kazuha plus C4 Mona. Okay? So even at C4 Dehya, it's 3%. At C6 Dehya, it's like 1 to 2%. So basically, you can just use the HP sense. You don't need to use EM sense, even in this HyperCarry Vape where, for Vape right, typically EM sense takes the cake. Be it Diluc or Hu Tao, it's actually better to use EM sense in these comms once you have your rotation etc. set up correctly, such that you are vaping all the vapes that you can do. For Dehya, we are doing the same thing, we are vaping all that we can, but EM Sense only has a 1 to 2% benefit at C6 Dehya and 3% at C4 or C5. So you might as well just go HP Sense, right? You pretty much get the same damage, more or less the same damage, but you get a lot more HP, which improves her survivability. Don't even forget the fact that people are saying that it's very easy for her to die in beta. But they are testing on her in beta, they are saying that it's very easy for her to die. Yeah. Because of the fact that she's taking 2 types of damage at the same time, right? She's taking the damage that she's mitigating from the other characters before her on-field time, and also her actual on-field time taking damage. So yeah, this. Do you now see the point of the changes? The point of this change is actually to make it such that for wheels, this is the first layer by the way. For wheels, you can just use HP Sense and improve of survivability for C4 plus onwards, and not suffer any real DPS loss, even in a HyperCarry Vape where EM Sense is typically better. So that's the first layer. Yeah, I know, it's the pay to win layer. Second layer, although technically speaking, you can't say that Genshin is pay to win. You can clear the hardest content that it starts without paying per se. Yeah. Now, second layer would be that Hoyo seems to be taking in the feedback on survivability in beta, right? Because remember what I'm talking about, by using HP Sense, you how do I put it? By adding HP scaling in the base kit, they are trying to motivate players to get more HP on her, and then you only can get more HP from her easily without compromising the rest of her damage at C4 plus. So the two layers actually work together. They come together. Okay. Now, at least for the second layer, right? It also applies to C0, right? But it is more for builds where she's not the main DPS, not like in this HyperCarry Vape, right? And for the HyperCarry Vape or any com really, before C4, Dehya needs ER sense. So it's kind of hard to get more HP on her unless you want to sacrifice your crit stat or your pyro damage bonus. Which is why I say it has to be cases where she's not the main DPS. Maybe like a E bot support build. But feels bad, right? Because the E is also not high in damage. So it only procs 2.5 seconds. So yeah, not liking this change. I know there's HP scaling now added, but Hoyoverse knows how to balance it, such that it's pretty much in the same situation except for wheels, except for C4 plus onwards Dehya. Yeah, I'm sorry to share this analysis, but hey, this is what I have analyzed. Okay, so V4 changes basically mainly benefit wheels, while giving the illusion that C0 is buff as well, because it's actually not. I mean, C0 gets a 3% buff. Okay, technically speaking, yeah, it's buff, but it's 3%. Now, she still requires high ER at C0. And now you get to utilize the HP Ascension stat, that's true, but the drop in attack percentage basically makes no real difference to overall DPS output. Unless, like I said, you're going some kind of E-bot support build, like, you go ER double HP main stat wise, or ER HP crit. Some type of sub DPS build or hybrid support and DPS build kind of thingy. Okay. Which may be relevant in future, but who knows? By future I mean Fontaine characters, obviously. Or the Fontaine meta. Because like the Sumeru meta makes EM so good and also elevates a few other characters like Yae, etc., right? Yae Cookie. Or even Keqing. Now, honestly, I will not recommend F2P players to pull for her until we get more information on new artifacts in 3.6. Because whatever you see now on the new artifacts is likely fake. All of it is not verified, so, or rather I shouldn't say verified, but not from credible sources per se. In fact, it may be better to pull for her only after seeing how she works with Fontaine characters. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously, if you like the character, just pull for character. That's what I always say. If you like character, pull for character. But at least you know from my videos how the character stands. That's what I'm trying to do here. Now, for wheels though, it's not too bad to pull for her, especially if you like her, because she may not be top tier, but her damage is decent. In fact, very high if you only look at her Q duration. Her Q duration alone, if you look at her Q damage, right? In that 7 seconds, right? Q animation time, 4 seconds of fist, 1 second of the kick. Those 7 seconds, she does a lot of damage. It's higher than any other character if you look only their on-field time. Even like a short duration character like Tighnari, for example. Or okay, maybe Raiden Raiden does more. Yeah, right, sorry, Raiden does more. Yes. If I'm not wrong, Raiden does more, but I have to look at the actual figures. But you get what I'm trying to say here, right? She does do a pretty decent amount of damage, and it's very high if you only look at Q damage duration. For wheels. For wheels. Okay, for wheels. So yeah, I really don't recommend FTP players to pull forward, especially when the current banner is so stacked, right? Look at the Hu Tao Yelan banner, it has Xingqiu in there. So you get your Xingqiu and the Yelan and the Hu Tao all together. Wow. Wow. That's all I can say. Oh, and the weapon banner too, right? Because the Star Homa and Yelan signature weapon is which is pretty good too. Alright, now let me go to the TLDR because we are slightly over the half-hour mark that I wanted to be, but pretty close. So V4 basically gives Dehya HP scaling her base hit, but her attack scaling is dropped too. At the end of the day, her DPS is pretty much unchanged, only 3% better at C0. Okay, so the V2 to V4 or V3 to V4 basically makes her damage better by 3%. That's it. That's all. Oh, and I guess you get better QL from her A1 passive and C2. And I'm not gonna lie, I do like the A1 passive change. It makes things a lot more simpler, but it doesn't improve her damage per se. Yeah. Now, in terms of stat priority, or at least the sub, okay, stat priority is as follows. At least in this HyperCarry Vape comp, okay. My recommendation has to be specific to the comp itself because things can change slightly according to the comp and the focus of the character's role. Now, for C0, I recommend ER Sense. At C4 plus onwards, I recommend HP Sense. And the substat priority is as follows. Obviously, the CR, CD, ER are the 3 prime. They take the same priority per se. Obviously, you need to hit 190 ER or whatever the ER value is at the different constellation values. And then EM takes a higher priority than HP. Attack takes the lowest priority. This is at C1 plus. At C0, you can consider going attack over HP if you want more damage, but again, it's about survivability. If the survivability for Dehya is pretty bad, if it turns out to be pretty bad, then you can't even go EM as the substat priority, first substat priority after the 3 prime stats. You maybe have to go for 5 HP rolls, stuff like that. And for other comps, you may even consider completely removing EM in the order. So I have to conclude it as such. V4 changes mainly benefit wheels by allowing HP sense to be competitive versus attack and EM sense at C4+, while giving the illusion that C0 is buffed too. But it's actually not. Because you still need ER sense at C0, you get HP scaling, yes, but your attack multipliers are dropped too. But to be fair, again, if I mentioned earlier, right, in this HyperCarry Vape, we are getting a lot of attack buffs. We are also getting Bennett's attack buff as well. So that creates a much bigger impact for the attack multiplier decrease that has happened in this V4. Okay, if you're in a comp where you don't get as much attack buffs, then that HP versus attack thingy will be even more favoring the HP. Okay, please bear this in mind. Now, honestly, to conclude, right, I would not recommend F2P players to pull for Dehya until we get more information on the artifacts 3.6, because whatever you see now is very likely fake. In fact, it's better to pull for her after seeing how she works with Fonte characters, if you want to be 100% safe. But for wheels, right, you can just pull for her. She's not third player, but her damage is actually decent, or in fact very high if you only look at her kill duration. Now, personally, I am undecided on whether I will C6 her. I'll probably decide after I get to actually play her in game. Like if I really like her, how her Q works out, the feel and the playing it and enjoying it, right, I might pull for C6. Might. That's a big might. I mean, even the Alhaitham I didn't go C6. So, Wanderer I didn't go C6. Both of them are C0. Right? Yeah, both of them are C0. Alright, so anyway, that concludes my Dehya V4 changes update along with updates on the figures. Now, I have had the chance to update the artifact comparison. That's probably going to be what's coming next, just to refresh the artifact comparison to see whether any permutation with like the 2 tenacity may be better now. But I sincerely doubt that it will be like the best per se. Maybe at C6. Because remember my previous artifact comparison, pretty much 4 emblem is the best to go until C6. Yeah. Alright, so yeah, obviously what else is coming in will be the weapon and the constellations, provided we don't get hit with another of the strike thingy. But let's see how that goes. I'm pretty chill about it, really. I mean, if I can't do pre-release, then I'll probably just do post-release on the day itself or something. I'll talk more about it during my streams. Yeah, we do it that way. Alright, thanks everyone for watching. I'll see you guys next video. Bye.